Here's how you can easily create these 3 simple text effects to use in your videos and animations. Right now, no software required. Go to app.panzoid.com and create a new project. This first effect looks like someone is typing out your text. This is often used to create a dramatic feel or just for a visual aid of someone typing something. I'm going to start by adding a solid color for the background so it isn't quite as bland, but you can put anything behind your text, of course. I'll use a solid note, double click it to edit it, and change the color to a nice blue. Next, drop a text clip. Grab a text clip from the sequence category and drop it onto your timeline above your new background. To edit the text, click on the new clip and go to the text properties tab here. You can change the text to whatever you want to say and pick a font as well. Now here's where the magic happens. Click the plus button next to the text effectors and choose the typing effect. And that's basically it, we're done. Scrub through the timeline and see for yourself. Our text is now typing out. If you want to customize it, you can adjust the typing speed and the variance, which controls the consistency of the simulated typing. But hold on, what did we just do? A text effector is basically an effect that you can apply to text to perform an animation. They're called effectors to distinguish them from regular video effects, but you can use them in a very similar way. You can combine multiple of these and they all stack together to easily create complex effects. For example, if you want to make the words in our typing animation shake around, just add a shake effector. Once you get a feel for what the basic effectors do, your imagination is the limit. Alright, let's take a look at this next effect. This is a great animation for titles or logos, and it's a lot more visually interesting than a typical fade or slide in. For the background, this time I'm going to add a gradient for a little more color. It's very similar to adding a solid color, but it's a different node type. And just as before, we're going to drop our text on the timeline. For this effect, we're going to use the time offset effector and add a few keyframes to make the animation. Drag the cursor to the beginning of the clip and turn on animation for position, rotation, and scale. Doing this also creates a keyframe for us. Drag the scale until the text is quite small, then drag the Y position until your text is off the screen, which is where we want it to start. Now move the cursor ahead a bit. You can adjust the timing later, but I'm doing about half a second. Now set the position back to 0, the rotation to 360 degrees, and the scale back to 1. It's already coming together, but let's tweak it a little bit more to make it less robotic. Select all of the second keyframes and press I to change their interpolation type. You can choose whatever you think looks best here. Different types change the speed of your animation between your 2 keyframes. I'm going to go with quartic. The last thing to do is adjust the timing. The time offset property controls how much lag there is in between each letter's animation. If you set it to 0, all the letters animate in sync, and if you set it to a large value, there will be a long delay between letters. And it's done. For a few extra style points, I'm going to add an outline and a shadow. To do this, find the stroke width and color properties and adjust it to your liking. Then go to the Effects tab and add a drop shadow effect. And to really top it off, I'm going to add a motion blur effect as well, since it really exaggerates the fast motion of these letters. In this third animation, we're going to step it up a little and create some 3D text. The procedure is actually fairly similar to before, but this time we're going to find a text clip inside the 3D Object tab of the browser panel. Drop it on the timeline and select it. In order to see our 3D scene a little bit better, click on the camera icon to enable the scene view. That way you can click and drag to pan around the text. To edit the text object inside the scene, go to the Scene tab and select the text. This is where you'll find the usual text properties like font and size. The Text Effectors tab is where we can add our effectors just like before. The first effector we'll add is the Scatter effector. This makes all of our letters randomly scatter around in 3D space, which we'll use in reverse to make everything kind of converge into the correct places and then scatter out at the end. Add 2 keyframes to animate the amount property going from 1 to 0 and then change the easing. Now to animate the end, highlight the keyframes, hold Shift and Alt, and then drag them to the end of the clip. Notice that this will clone your keyframes. Now right click and choose Reverse Selected Keyframes. To speed this up, you can start typing to filter down the options here. This will create the exact same animation, but now in reverse so our letters scatter out at the end. Now we're going to do a little tilt effect with the time offset effector. Around the point where your scatter effect ends, add 3 rotation keyframes, where the middle one has a Y rotation of about 30 degrees and the other 2 are just at 0. This will make each letter successively tilt for a moment, like they're individually introducing themselves. This doesn't look like much now, but you'll see why this is a really cool effect in just a second. I'm going to go over to the Material tab and change to a physical material so I can use lights with my text. Of course, now the text is gone since we have no lights, but let's add some. Use the plus button to add a few spotlights in your scene and adjust their position to move them around so the text is well lit from multiple angles. Now back in my material settings, I'm going to add a texture map and a normal map. These are just images that you can either make or download online. Then I'm going to add an environment map texture. This part is optional, but it can really enhance the look of your text. Now, check this out. When each letter tilts, you can see the reflections on our material and it looks really slick. Alright, I hope this helped you get started with text effectors. This video barely scratches the surface of what is possible, so let me know if you want to see more advanced tutorials and be sure to share the things that you make in our community at Panzoid.com. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.